Welcome to Live, Breathe Yoga, a show dedicated to inspiring your practice and elevating your mind, body, and soul. Today on Case Study, we chat with wellness industry expert George Chow from Peaches and Green, Toronto's staple specialty health food store. On Strike a Pose, we practice Yin Yoga. Don't forget to stay tuned for Yoga Bites, where we share our recipe of the day. We have a great show in store for you today. Stay connected for more Live, Breathe Yoga. Pranayama is a beautiful part of your yoga practice. It keeps you present and helps you expand your lungs, giving you space to move deeper into your postures. Chandra Bidana Pranayama is a cooling breath. The right nostril represents the sun, and the left represents the moon. The moon corresponds to the introspective, passive, and artistic side of an individual. Find a comfortable seated position, close your eyes, and relax your body. Connect with a natural breath. Take your left hand to your knee. Close your right nostril with the thumb of your right hand. Inhale through your left nostril. Close the left nostril with your ring and pinky finger. Exhale through the right nostril. This completes one round of Chandra Bidana Pranayama. You can gradually do up to 20 rounds. The benefits of Chandra Bidana include the reduction of bile and removal of excess heat. It quiets the mind and cools the body. Contraindications. Avoid practicing this pranayama in the winter. Seek the guidance of a skilled yoga instructor before practicing if you have sluggish digestion or excess mucus. Do not practice Chandra Bidana on the same day as its counterpart, Surya Bidana. Hey everyone, I am here with leading health and wellness expert George Chow from Peaches and Green. Thanks for being with us today.
Happy to be here.
So what we're going to talk about today are the natural remedies and nutrients to help aid in focus, relaxation, anxiety. So if I were to come into your store and I had these problems, what would you tell me?
It's a very common question that we get.
Yes.
So
I imagine.
Yeah. So addressing it from a nutritional standpoint, which is really what our role is, I would say this, that the better we understand how our bodies function, the better we're going to be able to address the anxiety and how to produce better relaxation. And it will start with food, okay, and lifestyle. So starting with food, something that we're all familiar with are going to be macronutrients. Okay. So macronutrients are the fats, carbohydrates, and proteins that we eat. So essentially,
give me an example for those of us who are not familiar with what that might be.
So a fat might be any kind of oil.
Okay.
Okay. With an omega-3 fish oil being very vital since our bodies don't produce it. Okay. So that's a fat. Carbohydrates would be vegetables.
But before we go on, so there's good fats and bad fats too, right?
There are good fats and bad fats. I think most of us recognize what good fats are. Okay. The bad fats, well, the worst fat is likely a trans fat, and they will come by way of processed foods. So if we can eliminate or greatly reduce the amount of processed foods that we eat, then we can eliminate the bad fats, like trans fats. Okay, so that's a fat. Carbohydrates are essentially vegetables, and then there are refined carbs, which are very popular. They would be like baked goods, like donuts and muffins. Anything and the like.
All the favorite things that we adore.
Well, they're also known as our comfort foods.
Yes.
Okay, so when we're stressed, we will gravitate towards those refined carbs. And proteins will come in two forms. It can be an animal protein, beef, chicken, or plant-based protein. Okay. So soy, pea protein, rice protein. So those are the nutrients that really fuel our body.
Okay.
And then within those macronutrients, there should exist micronutrients.
Okay.
Okay,
And
so
what are those?
micro is small.
Yes.
So those small nutrients are vital in supporting our cell function.
Okay.
Okay, so if we can eat adequate macronutrients, fats, carbohydrates, proteins, where adequate micronutrients exist, then we will be fine.
Okay.
In terms of receiving adequate nutritional nutrients. Okay. So the selection of foods that we make will really determine how well we nourish ourselves.
Okay.
So,
And in doing that, we could start to look at how to naturally heal ourselves or naturally aid
well, you know,
anxiety. And
yeah.
Is that something that we can do with what we consume?
Hippocrates had a very accurate statement, and the statement is, "Let food be thy medicine, and thy medicine be thy food," something like that. So,
Okay.
so food was our medicine going back thousands of years. Today, in North America and in Europe, but in all developed countries, we have patent drugs.
Yes.
And they work well at addressing symptoms. And they're simple. And it is something that many of us will gravitate towards to
Initially, yeah.
yeah, to address what ails us.
Yes.
So it's a fix, and at times it's a very good fix, but it may not necessarily address the challenges that we have.
Okay.
So for instance, stress. If we're alive, we have stress.
Yes.
Okay. And stress
Even
is
yogis have stress.
the reason why a person will engage in yoga is to try to de-stress and to reduce anxiety and to become more focused.
Okay.
So,
Absolutely, it helps me.
yeah, so, and you look relaxed.
I'm very relaxed.
So, focus. Essential fats,
Okay.
like
what?
omega-3s,
Okay.
like fish oils,
Yes.
are most often cited to be very beneficial to help individuals achieve focus.
Okay.
Okay. So it feeds the brain and it provides cognitive function. Okay. It also provides cardiovascular support as well, but in this case, it's there to support.
Why is that?
It is just the properties that is within fish oils.
Okay.
Okay. Our bodies are always battling inflammation and acidity.
And that's based on what we're consuming too, right?
So what we consume can either contribute more
Right.
to those conditions or it can help alleviate.
Okay.
So if our diet contains foods that are more alkalizing, then our bodies will become more efficient at extracting nutrients from the micronutrients that we eat from those foods. If our body's acidic, it's going to have a more challenging time. So all those great foods that we eat, we may not get the benefit of unless we have more alkaline body.
Now, we had a conversation earlier and you talked to me about magnesium, and that was a really interesting nutrient that I found. You had a lot of really great notes about magnesium. Can you share some of those notes with our friends here?
So magnesium, what I discovered really astounded me. In 1936, there was a paper that was delivered before Congress in the US, and it addressed the deficiency of magnesium in the soil. And at that time,
You mentioned that.
the population was not getting adequate amounts of magnesium. So the role of magnesium is a very important one for the body because it is involved with hundreds of enzyme activities in the body. So it can be up to, the experts can agree, it can be up to 600 or 700 different activities in the body. So if magnesium is deficient in the body, it can lead to anxiety. The role of magnesium is to help muscles relax.
And would you suggest taking a supplement or foods that have magnesium in them?
The foods that are rich in magnesium are going to be your greens.
Right.
However, there is not adequate levels of magnesium in the greens that we eat. So given our lifestyle, so if we work, we're going to be under stress. If we're active and if we're leading an active lifestyle, such as a yogi, you'll likely be perspiring. And when that happens, your body will lose magnesium, along with other water-soluble nutrients that support nerve function, which is really stress. And if that nutrient is not adequately replenished, then it's going to have an impact. So the impacts can be muscle cramps, difficulty sleeping, it can be migraines that one might be having, it may be heart arrhythmia,
Okay.
It can bump blood
So
pressure.
many things, yeah, that
a
it can
lot.
affect, yeah.
Magnesium is also required for the body's production of insulin. So when we look at conditions like type 2 diabetes, there is a strong relationship.
Okay.
So needless to say, one's diet is really important, but along with their diet, an active lifestyle. And yoga would constitute that. So movement is vital.
Yes.
So our lymphatic system is dependent on movement for flow.
Yes.
And if we can...
We did an episode actually that promoted circulation through our lymph nodes to build immunity, so.
So I think that a better understanding of how the body functions
Yes.
would really go a long ways to help people address their needs.
Now, in terms of somebody coming into your store for the first time, do you have any advice for them before they start purchasing all of these things?
Yeah, the first thing someone should do if they feel that they need help in managing their health and wellness is to consult their healthcare practitioner, consult their doctor. Always let your doctor know what you're doing or maybe what you want to do, and let them guide you. Information is power. There's lots of it out there. One has to be mindful of the sources and be a skeptic, right? Challenge everybody.
Ask questions.
Ask questions. We ask people to ask. We ask people to challenge, and one should be slow at taking things at face value, right? Do your homework.
Okay.
Right? Invest time into yourself.
And that's brilliant. And I'm so happy that you came in today to share this with us. And I'm looking forward to bringing you back next week. He's going to be back with us next week too. So thank you once again, George. Coming up next, strike a pose. everyone, welcome back. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we looked at restorative yoga postures, but did you know that there's also a practice called Yin Yoga? And it's actually very similar to restorative yoga in that you're spending a lot of time in the postures. The focus in Yin Yoga is that you're focusing on your joints and your ligaments as opposed to the muscle bed. So we're gonna go through 5 postures today, and we're gonna get started with the girls coming into tabletop in preparation for a posture called Dragon. So from here, you're gonna step your right foot forward, and then you can untuck your back toes, taking your right hand to the inside of your right foot. Make sure that your right heel is underneath your right knee. From here, you can either stay up onto your hands. If you have the range of motion, you can take your elbows down to the earth. Once you take your elbows down to the earth, think of rolling onto the outer blade of your right foot. And that'll open up your hips. And being mindful of what's happening with your neck. Sometimes when you come into a posture like this, you start to hang out and maybe your head drops forward. So you want to keep your chin up so that you're finding length from your tailbone to the top of your head. Now the focus is on the hips. And again, they're spending some time here. So while you're in the posture, you want to breathe gently in and out through your nose, breathing with ease, clearing your mind, and just really allowing for that openness to happen in your hip area. Now we're gonna pretend that 5 minutes have passed. I'm gonna get the girls to come back up onto their hands, step back with your right foot, and forward with your left. And if you're not able to draw that heel directly underneath your knee when you get up into this posture, you can just simply heel toe your toes forward to make sure that your heel is underneath your knee. And again, observing either staying up on your hands or coming down onto your elbows. And you might find your more dominant side will be tighter than the other. So if on one side your elbows are down and the other side your hands are down, totally fine. Just honor that in your body. Just as Kate's doing here. So you can see that her dominant side is now inhibiting her from going deeper into the posture, but this is perfect for her. Again, slow inhales, taking time with exhales. A yin practice is a very cooling practice. And gently from here, coming up onto your hands. If you are on your elbows, step back. And then from here, I'm gonna get the girls to sit down to connect with a posture called square. So in square, you're gonna take your right shin parallel to the side of your mat. And then from here, you're gonna take your left ankle on top of your right knee. Now, something to bear in mind when you're coming into a posture like this, especially for the leg that's on top, what can happen is that your ankle will wanna sickle. So think of flexing your pinky toe toward your outer knee to protect your knee. And I'm just gonna get Kate to demonstrate here very quickly what sickling looks like. So if you get your pinky toe to draw forward, and this can tend to happen. So when this happens, this weakens your knee. So we'll flex that foot, protecting the knee. So you can feel that difference between the two variations. Yeah. And then even with the foot on the bottom, you wanna still find the flexed pinky toes toward your outer knees, drawing awareness to your hips once again. Slow inhales, slower exhales, spending some time here. Spend the 5 minutes. Do this while you're watching TV if you like. And now we're gonna get the girls to switch to the opposite side. And as you switch to the opposite side, you'll find, again, your dominant side will be tighter, so maybe that leg might be a little bit higher. Try not to force your body into meeting the same height in your knees for both sides. It'll happen naturally. Your body will open up, your body will cool down. And finding ease with your breath. This can be a very intense posture for some people. And gently from here, taking both feet out of the posture, you're gonna prepare now for a toe squat. So facing the side of your mat, the front of your mat rather. Tuck your toes under and sitting back onto your heels, hands on your thighs. Keeping your shoulders stacked over your hips, and draw your lower abdomen in towards your spine, just so that you're finding a nice neutral spine. What can happen here when you come into a posture like this, and I'm actually guilty of doing this, I tend to rest a little bit too far back. So when you shorten this distance and find a neutral spine, you can really draw that focus into the stretch in your toes, your ankles. Where are you feeling this, Kate? You're feeling it in your ankles? Yeah. And Feng, how are you feeling this? In the front of your feet? So that's common. And again, where you feel intensity, you want to breathe into that space. Nice, easy breaths. While you're in a posture like this, it looks like it's quite simple, but when you're spending more time in it, you're opening up the areas where you felt intensity. And gently from here, we're going to move forward into our next posture, Bananasana. So you're going to sweep your feet from underneath you and lay down on your back. Draw your hands towards the back of your mat. Then from here, lift your shoulders, lift your head, and draw your shoulders to the right side of your mat and your feet to the right side of your mat. So essentially what's happening while you're laying down is both your feet and your shoulders are in the same direction. You're going to connect with a beautiful stretch, that beautiful opening along the left side of your body as the girls are right now. While you're in a posture like this, again, drawing awareness to the spaces that you feel intensity. This is a nice yin way to connect with that stretch in your IT band. Finding space between the rib cage, along the side with your breath. Even under your arm, you'll get that stretch. And staying mindful as you're connecting with this posture. And of course, if you're doing one side, you're going to connect with the opposite side. So now lifting your head, lifting your legs, switching it to the opposite side, to your left. Once you've reached your head and shoulders, you're going to walk your heels over. And notice within your own body if there is tightness on one side, more openness on the other. Totally okay. Just give yourself the same amount of time on both sides. Maybe you'll give your tighter side a little bit more love if needed. And gently from here, I'm going to get the girls to come into a neutral position, taking your hands down to your sides. From here, bend your knees. As you bend your knees, take your feet to the earth. Lift your hips off of the ground, and then take your hips over to the right. Drop your hips on the right side of your mat, take your knees into your chest, and slowly let your knees melt over to the left. Take your hands out in a T shape. And when you found a comfortable position, slowly draw your gaze towards your right hand. And the reason why I had the girls take their hips to one side first is that when they come into the twist, their spine is twisting aligned. As opposed to going from here and opening up this way, you're opening and doing that. Again, being mindful in this posture, knowing that you're connecting with the posture for at least 5 minutes on both sides, observing from your tailbone to the top of your head, observe how this feels in your hips, and try to connect with that easy breath. Slow inhales, slow exhales, finding ease in your movement, maybe melting deeper into the posture. And of course, you're gonna now switch to the opposite side. Just take your knees up and align your hips first. Draw your hips all the way over to the left, and then slowly allow your knees to melt over to the right. And this posture might change for everybody. You might feel more comfortable drawing your knees closer to your elbows, maybe further away, just really observing where you need that movement. A yin practice is a beautiful one, very relaxing. And gently from here, draw your knees back up. Take your hands underneath your knees and rock up to a seated position for the end of our practice. So those are just a few of the postures that you can connect to in a yin practice. Check in with one of your local yoga studios to see if they offer yin classes there. I want to thank Kate and Feng for joining me today. Coming up next, we're going to check in with our Live Breathe Yoga Contest winner. Stay with us. Let's check in with our Live Breathe Yoga Contest winner, Deanna Rose. Keep up the great work, Deanna. Up next, Yoga Bites. Moksha means liberation, bliss. Quinoa has been a favorite ingredient of mine lately. I've been using it as a healthy substitute for rice or potatoes. It is high in magnesium, iron, and is an excellent source of dietary fiber. Begin by sauteing the garlic and onions in the coconut oil. Add the wild sockeye salmon. Cook partially, then break apart with your spatula. Add the kale and tomatoes and stir fry until the kale has wilted with the heat. Add the cooked quinoa. Mix the ingredients evenly. Serve hot or cold like a salad. Yum. If you have a favorite recipe or maybe there's something that you'd like to ask, feel free to connect with me on my Facebook page at Kaye.yoga. Join us next week for more Live, Breathe Yoga. Namaste.